Hello there. Today I'm going to make a very not sussy video and uh, about a question that is quite not sussy because this is like the first second video that isn't sussy about Among Us or 3 a.m. So, does God exist? And that's the big question. Does God exist? And before we do that, I already made a video. At 3 a.m., he came to my house. Where uh, I made a joke that about God or something. I don't know, but I made a video where I basically made a joke about God and saying I met God at 3 a.m. He came to my house, like I do with literally everyone in the but apparently it's going too far, so I don't know. Yeah. Anyway, um, while that may have gone too far, what isn't going too far is my free gift card giveaway. You want to join my free gift card giveaway? Subscribe to the channel, hit the bell on the channel, like the video, comment on the video, get a free Robux, you get a free Robux, free dollar, free everything. You get a free Among Us skin in Fortnite, which is very nice. If you get the free Fortnite Among Us, something will happen that's very, very good, Free Among Us skin, all I need is your bank details. That's a joke. Yeah. Join the free gift card giveaway, and free gift card instantly appear in on your in your hand. It will, as soon as you join, free gift card will instantly appear in your hands. That is not a lie. That is the truth. And if you don't believe me, you're lying and you're stupid, and you should go in a mental facility. You know what I mean? Anyway, what does God exist? Better question. Does God exist? But a better question is better to ask. Does God need to exist? Why? So, because why do we have God as a concept? It's only really to explain things, because it's a useful tool to explain things. So why then do we need a God to explain things? Like, people will say we use a God to explain the universe, or to explain consciousness, or life, or anything. So they use the God because it seems like a simpler explanation to it. But the issue is that it requires you to assume that there's some supernatural thing that exists that's controlling whatever, which is, when you think about it, is a bizarre assumption. Why would you assume that there's a magical being in the sky, or wherever it is, everywhere, that's controlling everything? Like, what basis does that have? It seems like a pretty absurd and abstract idea when you think about it from perspective of why do we even what even is God, and why does we even have God? So the issue is that we can either explain something through natural processes, like what happens in reality, what's happening in the material world that we live in. So we'll call that reality or whatever. I can't write. This is reality, and we know for certain that reality exists. If you're not a lunatic, who thinks whatever that some idealist rubbish like my mind creates all of this or whatever. That's rubbish. This is here. If my mind, even if my mind is creating it, it's still there, and it still works in that way. So why should you not count it as reality? Because it acts that way, so it's the same thing in reality. So this, for certain, we can say exists. But for God, how can we be certain? So how are we supposed to be able to use this as a reliable explanation for the universe, or whatever? This is the issue. So, and the thing is, we can see what's happening in reality. We can observe what is happening in reality. We can't really observe God. If God exists, we can't observe what's happening with God. We observe what's happening in reality. So when we see, when we are doing something like an experiment or whatever, we're like A to B. This is what reality does. Goes directly from A to B because we can observe what happens in reality. Like, we know what happens in reality, or at least we can determine what happens. But when we are using a God explanation, we need to go A to God to B. There's some random thing in between that's causing this. That's causing the whatever we observe, according to the God theory. So it's going from here to here, but what we observe is apparently only a part of what God's doing. And God is causing it. So rather than saying this is what we see, this is what we can prove exists, why do we need to prove anything else? This is completely outside of everything we know, and we're saying this is influencing this, or this is what's causing this. But what if it's something else causing it from outside? What's some other supernatural force? It doesn't really answer that, because in fact this is shown by the fact that there are many gods that people believe in. Different people believe in different gods. Hindus will believe, it's kind of like one god, but then there's loads of gods. But they're the ones that are causing these natural processes. Or in, like, the monotheistic ones, or the Abrahamic ones, there's one god that's, I think, throughout the Abrahamic ones, I think it's the same god, but this god is controlling the natural processes. So either way, it's some god from one point controlling the natural processes. And the reason we have this is because these natural processes we did not know what these were, because before it was, for us, we were doing observing, and then we saw B, but we didn't know the natural processes. So, like, for example, water. We don't know why we need water, but we know we need water. So water would become God. We observe, but we don't see why we need water. We don't know that. We see that we need water because that's part of our instinct. That's natural selection. That's how we even became a thing, because life needs water, and natural selection will choose whatever is the most efficient way to get the water. So we know that we need water. We don't know why we need it. This is when I'm not talking about now. I'm talking about before civilizations. So in the primitive society. So before the civilizations like the Roman Empire and those stuff. So I'm talking about the tribal times. So we were living in hunter-gatherer society. That's what it is. So a hunter-gatherer society, we don't know any of this. And the same thing with the slave society and feudal, to some extent as well, and the capitalist society that we're in now. So we know that we need water, but we don't know why. From that point, until we discover science, until we create science as a way to analyze the world. So we see instead in those before civilization, we see that we need water, but we don't see why we need it. And because what part of being conscious is asking questions, we then ask the question, why do we need water? And that's kind of the definition of consciousness. Why do we need water? And we need an answer to this question, but we can't find one because we don't really have science. And we don't have a method to observe this. What's happening. So this is really what is happening here is happening, but we don't see it. So we just assume, oh, there's a God. He gives us the water, and then whatever. God is the one who, he created the water as a way to keep us alive. And then that is where we get the water, what we observe. The water is how we live. That's basically why we create gods. They're an explanation for questions we can't answer. And why are they still here today? Well, there's many reasons. It's part of the culture, which is important in my opinion. The culture part is, we need to. I think we should keep that for the time being. Until that phases out naturally, we should keep culture that includes the cultural parts of religion. That's obviously, so the culture, the religion, like the same way that language develops with culture, religion also develops with culture. So it's part of the culture and it stays with the culture, which also then survives. Then there's also the second reason, which is control. Religion is a very good way to control the population because you can rally people up by saying, we believe in the same God. You believe this God, you'll go to heaven. Don't, and you go to hell. That's so it's very useful as a way to control the population and to say, do not do this, God doesn't want it. Do this because God wants it. You see this with the Catholic Church when the feudal ages, the Middle Ages in Europe. You see them saying, give us money and you can go to heaven. That's one of their ways to control the people and to collect money from them to fund whatever they want. So that's one of the reasons. And pretty much that's most of it. There are other reasons as well, but not. I don't really know much about the other reasons. I think maybe it might be something to do with the adapting of science and the progress of science is slowly going to phase out religion, I think, as we scientific knowledge becomes more and more, expands more and more, we then know more and more stuff. Again, we don't know a lot of stuff, but we know more and more stuff, and we know more and more about what we don't know. Well, we know what we don't know more and more, which is the great thing about science because it does that. but as the system will adapt and progress into different ages, assuming climate change doesn't kill us all, assuming that we get past that, society will need to develop beyond what it is now, and part of that will cause religion to fade away because it won't really be necessary anymore. So yeah, that's why it's still around today, kind of. But then why are you still thinking, well, what is the explanation for things like consciousness or for the universe? I have a very interesting explanation for this, I think. So, for the universe, I wanna waffle about how I think the universe was created. I don't think it was created because I don't think it can be created. So what do I think happened? Well, what is the universe? We can say the universe is space time, 3D, 4D space time. So it's in 4D, 3D of space to 1D of time. So what we have here, it can be any dimension if we really wanted to, but in reality, space-time for our universe is 4D. In fact, there are theories saying it's 11 or 10, or like smaller folded in dimensions. But I won't talk about that because it's not really relevant. But there's 4D of space-time as what we can know and what we can observe. So, what does this mean? What is space time? And what does it allow to happen? What can happen without space time? Well, the answer is nothing. You need space time for things to happen. Like without space, so with space, you need to. What you can then do when you have space, things can exist. With time, things can happen. So, if you have space, you can have objects existing in space, but they can't move because there's no time. They need, in order to move or to change position in space, they need time. They need to change position in time because without that, they can't. There's no way in which they can move positions. And then you need time allows things to change. Time is what then gives like dynamics, and that time is what allows change and all the dialectical processes to happen. So it allows things to change over time. That's what makes a universe possible: space and time. So if you have space and time, no matter how many dimensions, you can have a universe. So then, what happens if we don't have space or time? What happens? Well, there's no space for things to exist, and there's no times for things to happen, so nothing happens. Nothing can happen, and no time can pass, which is crucial, and nothing can exist, but something is, I think, better explains it, but it is that no time can pass, so there's no, the universe didn't exist. That was for 4 years before. No, that doesn't happen because there's no time passing. When the universe is created, that's space-time beginning to expand. So, as soon as space-time comes into existence, that's the start of time. Anything before that doesn't exist. So there cannot be no universe because the universe is space-time, and without space-time, nothing can exist and nothing can happen. Which is why the universe has to exist. So it's not a coincidence. It's just the way things are. We have a universe. If we didn't have a universe, if we have a universe, that proves that the universe exists. We can't have no universe. If we have a universe, that means there could never be no universe, because space and time need to exist. And if space and time didn't exist, then there'd be nothing happening. There'd be no universe. And there is a universe, so space and time do exist, and so there's always been a universe at some point in time, because the universe has, that's what the universe is. So there can't be a universe. There can't be no universe, because the universe is space-time. I think that's a very, very epic explanation. I think that's very interesting. I am quite proud of that. But again, I find it pretty epic. This is quite a satisfying explanation to have, So then, what about consciousness? Consciousness. What is consciousness? It's being aware, right? What does that require? What does it require to be aware of things? And is it on a spectrum? So consciousness is like a very high intelligence. So you're so intelligent that you're aware of things, which is what humans are. And that's what separates us from other species, because they aren't necessarily fully aware of everything and of their own existence. So what is consciousness? Being aware your own existence. High level intelligence compared to other species. So you're aware of your own existence, that's consciousness. And this comes from high level intelligence. So that's comes from questioning, having such high intelligence that you begin to question your own existence. Then you become conscious. So anyway, what separates this from normal intelligence, like a species, like a pig or something? Well, they're aware of their surroundings. They know they need to get food. They need to get water. But they aren't aware that they exist, or on the level that we are. They don't ask, "Why am I even here? What's the point?" Do they? They don't really ask that. Maybe they do. I'm not sure. I don't really know that. I think I read it somewhere about animals having religions, but I'm not sure. You have to tell me in the comments. But the consciousness is what's saying. You ask the questions, but say for example pigs, they don't ask those questions, so they aren't really conscious. So then, what causes this? Well, it would be something called emergence. Emergence is when you have a bunch of small processes. Um, Emergence is when you have a bunch of small processes and they all come together to form one big process. That's a very bad diagram, but I think you understand it. Like ants, loads of different ants. They do like a one job, right? So they'll have a job to defend, or to get food. That would be the job, which is a very simple job, but it's like a division of labor. One ant does one thing, another ant does another thing, and they're very simple processes. So, but because all these processes working together, and they can communicate with one another, and communicate what they're doing, then form another as a collective. They form a completely different structure that's more than the sum of their parts because of the processes they are completing and connections between them, which then add together to be more than the actual sum, which is how, for example, a computer will work. It's just a bunch of transistors going 1 and 0, but then I can then say, I can draw on this, and write this, and I can record videos, I can play video games, all on a computer, with just 1s and 0s at its very core. That's emergence. The same way that works, a brain is insanely more complicated and has a bunch more of these processes and a bunch more of these connections. So these processes, they happen. So like hormones, and so like the endocrine system and the nervous system. There's the hormones and the neuron pulses, the electric one. They communicate with your brain to all the parts of the body, and the brain then also has its own processes in it, and it has the memories and stuff. So that then, because all those processes working together adds to a sum greater than the sum of all of its total is greater than the sum of its parts, and that's what causes the consciousness of your brain, because the sum of all the processes exceeds the what would be the sum of the different parts if it were separate. Because they're working together, they can form a structure that's much bigger than what they would be separately in total. So like, I think you might not understand. You might understand what I mean. Hopefully. Anyway, yeah, that's God exists. I don't think so. Does God exist? No. I don't think God needs to exist. I might do I don't think God needs to in order to explain things, because we have much better ways of doing it. And,
Hello there, I don't care. You eat pear and shave hair. I'm dying, you're dying, we're dying, everyone's dying. Stop crying, subscribe please, and like please, and hit the bell please, and don't kill cheese.